If you're a Muslim and you don't eat pork or drink alcohol, should you be allowed by your employer to refuse to serve them? Well, Marks and Spencer's answer to that question seems to be yes, and it's caused a big row because one of its shop assistants has done exactly that, told a customer to go to another till, and now it seems some people are threatening to boycott M&S, and there are pages on Facebook and all the rest of it. Well, I'm joined by Khola Hassan, who is an Islamic law consultant, and Paul Diamond, he's a barrister who's been involved in defending religious people who have sought to exercise aspects of their religion at work, I suppose is the best way of putting it. Khola Hassan, what are the rules? What does the law say about this, if it says anything at all?
Islamic law says that we cannot drink alcohol, we cannot serve it, we cannot buy it, we cannot sell it. We shouldn't even sit at a table where alcohol is being served. The rule is not the same for pork. We cannot consume pork, but the rule is not as strong on that. But I was quite dismayed when I heard this news about M&S. I'm just wondering how far till workers can go. Are they there to police what people are buying? Will a till worker refuse to process a cake that has got champagne in it or chocolate that have got brandy in them?
Liqueur chocolates?
Yeah, or, if it's pork, Muslims can't eat pork, but we can't eat any meat that's not halal. So will they refuse to process any chicken or meat or lamb because it's not halal? I don't know how far we're going to go. I think it was just ridiculous.
Well, how interesting. How far do you think you should go? If you were... I take it you're an observant Muslim, are you?
Yes.
Right. So if you were working in a supermarket, what would you do?
I think it's very difficult because there's a difference between working, say, in an off-licence where you're only dealing with alcohol.
Yeah, you wouldn't work in an off-licence,
You wouldn't,
I take
exactly.
it.
But
Right.
somewhere, a larger store where there is so much being sold, and then a very small part of your income is coming from things that we don't consider to be halal. I think it would be better for the Muslim to say, well, if we're working here, let us treat everybody equally and show courtesy to everyone.
Isn't that a bit, though, like saying, this is what I believe, but only up to a point, my lord?
Well, no, because we are not there forcing alcohol down people's throats. They have chosen to buy it. All we're doing is facilitating it.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? You are facilitating it.
Well, yes, I know.
And I know somebody else would if you didn't, obviously, but nonetheless, you personally...
It's not being very practical, is it? I can just imagine standing in a queue and being told at the last minute, sorry, I'm not going to allow you to buy that, go somewhere else. There'll be chaos.
Well, maybe all Muslims should say, I won't work in supermarkets, apart from off-licences. Given that alcohol is sold in supermarkets, pork, bacon sold in supermarkets, maybe they should say, I won't work there.
Yeah, they'll be restricting themselves. And if they can't find work anywhere else, what are they going to do?
Right.
I'd rather work in a supermarket than be on the dole and live off the state.
So, putting it very crudely, your religion takes second place?
I don't think it's taking second place because I don't think the ruling is telling Muslims to do that.
You mean the Islamic ruling?
Yes.
The Quranic ruling?
I don't think the
right.
Islamic ruling is being so difficult that the Muslims cannot cope in society.
OK, where do you stand in this, Paul Diamond, given the sorts of cases that you've pursued over the years?
Yes, well, I think there's three very brief points I want to say. The first one, I want to just discuss the general principle. Secondly, I just want to discuss the climate.
All right, do them three quickly then, please.
OK, well, the first thing, of course, we welcome it. It's good. I
welcome
believe,
what? You welcome
I
the
welcome
fact...
it's good that employers accommodate employees' religious practices. Any civilised society should do that, and that is a good step.
So even, just to take that point very quickly, if somebody chooses to work in a supermarket knowing that customers are going to buy alcohol, and in this case alcohol and pork and so on, you as the employee, although you've chosen to work in that supermarket, should abrogate the right to yourself to refuse to sell them.
Yes, in principle, I do believe that. I don't believe mainstream jobs should be closed off to religious practitioners.
Well, they're closing them off themselves, aren't they? Themselves, they're not being closed off. They are deciding themselves that they won't do the things they're employed to do.
I want to get on to the next point because I think there are other issues. But I think a reasonable employer, and Mark Spencer, if they're able to do this, should be able to organise the shift pattern so someone stacks closing, but it's ludicrous they should be on a till. My two concerns I was going to mention was this extreme sensitivity to the Islamic faith takes place, as we all know, in a context of extreme hostility to the Christian faith. And I've been involved in a number of those cases.
Wearing crosses and that sort of thing.
Yes. I mean, an employer like British Airways says you can wear a hijab, a turban, a Siska ponytail, but not a cross. That is very common. And I would be very impressed with Marks and Spencer's if they actually do say Jews and Christians cannot sell alcohol, because Christians feel the same very often on that.
All right.
And on Sunday.
Your other point?
My other point is I think there's got to be an outer limit to religious accommodation. And I actually think this may be at the outer limit, because religious accommodation, religion is culture, and it has to conform to our cultural norms. Selling alcohol or refusing to sell pork or segregating universities on grounds of sex or having these radical...
That's a slightly different area, that, isn't it?
Well, what I'm saying... Well, I don't. I think what...
Really? Because, I mean, that's got to be simply wrong. That is...
Yes. What I'm saying is we have to have a principle of a civilized norm of religious accommodation. But we have to be mindful of our culture, and there are limits to it. And selling pork, and there's been examples in the United States where taxi drivers have refused to pick up people with alcohol, etc., because they're Muslims, and it's a widespread problem on this. It is at the outer limits of religious accommodation. Probably M&S, I think, have gone too far and set a very high benchmark, which they would be discriminating against others. If they
All right, Khola Hassan, civilised norm of religious accommodation, define it.
Oh, I have absolutely no idea, but I think we have to live together. And that includes Muslims as well as others. And I don't know how we're supposed to live together if we're sitting in a shop and saying, I won't touch this and I won't talk to you because you've got this in your hand. It's going to make life very, very difficult for Muslims.
And what if somebody said to you, look, you're wearing a scarf, of course, covering your hair. And what if somebody said, I don't like the way you cover your hair, or I don't like the way that lady's wearing a hijab or something? What would you say to them?
I can do what I like, because I might not like the short skirt she's wearing, or I don't like her hairstyle, or just think that the blouse is too ugly. Nobody's business, really, at the end of the day. But we have to show this respect, don't we? That's the whole point. Right,
and if you refuse to sell somebody, if you accept a job and you refuse to perform part of your duties out of your own sensitivities, you're not then, you think, showing respect.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, that if you've chosen to work in a supermarket, you know exactly what is happening there, what is being sold there. Are we going to refuse to walk past an aisle because it sells alcohol? I don't know. What is a shelf stacker going to do?
Well, what a lot of questions. What a fascinating debate. Khola Hassan and Paul Diamond, thank you both very much.